Blog Talk Radio.
Hello and welcome back to the Liberated Sensitive. This is the show where I talk about everything that has to do with being a highly sensitive person and becoming empowered. So, today's show is, let me see, what's the topic? The most effective ways to handle anger. Oh, by the way, I'm Kim Gelster, in case this is your first time tuning in. So, anger. Anger is a subject that most people are afraid to talk to or talk about. But I've noticed lately that people are talking about it a lot. And they're certainly expressing it more often than usual. With the state of world affairs and everything else that's going on in people's lives, with winter being here and people being sort of stuck inside and having no way to kind of escape out away from other people, etc., anger has really come to the forefront. So that's why I thought it would be a good day to talk about it. So to understand how to deal with anger, I think the most important thing to tackle initially is to do our best to really understand it, to understand what anger actually is. Is anger actually, you hear a lot of people tell you, oh, it's negative, oh, it's something you should push away, it's unwanted, it's something that you need to control, it's something that you need to have a handle on, it's icky. And certainly as a highly sensitive person, when people would get angry, and still sometimes occasionally when people get angry, it feels horrible. It feels like you just want to run away, you want to cry. At times, it feels devastating at times when other people are angry at us, when people are shouting, even when it's not at us, but maybe your neighbors are shouting at each other and they're behaving, angrily towards each other or something like that. It seems to be something that's very unwanted. And then we see that people sometimes act in ways out of anger that are very hurtful, become so angry for so long that they end up doing horrible, horrible things like mass shootings, etc. So is it something that we don't want? Given, all of these things, one would think so. But what if, instead, we looked at it from a different perspective? What if we decided that, well, we can't ignore it, that we all get angry, okay? We all have this emotion. What if, instead, we decided to face it and really, 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 really look at it? You see, we need to do that. And the reason that we need to do that is because if we don't, that's when it gets a hold of us. That's when we end up doing a lot of things that are much more hurtful to other people. It sees, we try to deny it, we try to call it all sorts of different other names, but it's still there. I spent a really long time in my life, very long time, not getting angry, or only allowing myself to get angry to a certain extent, or to try to find reasons why, certain angers are justifiable and certain other angers, as if there are different types of anger. Until I had this one relationship, and in this relationship, this person just really hit every single trigger possible. And I was going through so much in my life, I felt just powerless much of the time. I won't go into everything that I was going through. It's really not important. But suffice it to say that eventually I came to a point where I got very, very, very angry. Angry that I just went on and on and on towards this particular person for, I don't know, it would seem like a couple of hours. I know it wasn't that long. It was maybe about 15 minutes. But I was devastated. I was torn. I felt powerless. And you know, nothing better could have happened. I was suddenly faced with really looking at all of this anger that for many, many years I tried to deny. Because I was taught to think positive, because I was taught there's no reason to be angry, that being angry is giving away your power. It's not. Now, like I said, we need to understand what anger is in order to really be able to look at it. So what is anger? Anger is an emotion. It is not a feeling. It is an emotion. And I talked about this on previous shows, but just in case you haven't listened before, the difference is an emotion comes from the brain and a feeling comes from your center of being. Okay? So what's basically happening is your center of being wants to become empowered. Your center of being is feeling like, okay, whatever is occurring, I feel like I'm not at the helm. I'm feeling like I'm not empowered. I'm feeling like this person is trying to take my power away from me. This person is trying to take from me the things that I want, whatever those things are. Okay, have you ever noticed that a child, what is the main reason that most children, especially very small children, become angry? It's because something's being taken away from them that they feel like they want. So they feel unempowered. Now they start expressing things. They start expressing what appears frustration, sometimes crying, kicking, screaming when they're, doing what most people call having a fit, having a tantrum. This is normal. This is something that we all feel. And there's nothing actually wrong with it. Okay? But often we're raised that we're not supposed to feel that way, that we're not supposed to feel pain, that we're not supposed to be feeling frustrated, that we're not supposed to get what we want. So we're told we're angry. This is anger. Really is in a space of not being in control. But if we don't allow for our feelings, we'll never be in control. So most of us get to this space of frustration because things build up on themselves and we're trying to get what we want, or we're trying to even get what we want for our children, or we're trying to, get what we want in even helping others, and we get more and more frustrated. We're told all of the time that there's justifiable anger, and I suppose there is, but an emotion is an emotion, and we've got to let it rip. That doesn't mean that we need to let it rip out on another person. Hopefully it doesn't get to that point. If we feel that we're in pain, then we need to be with it. Happening, is your power is attempting to rise. It's like a fire. And it's very powerful. Okay? And it feels like, it's just going to rip us open and cut us open. But I can assure you it will not. I had to go through, after that first incident, and it took a few months later to where it started really rising again, because I was in a lot of pity, self-blame. I felt so horrible for being so angry. But it took several months for me to finally just, again, become very, very, very angry. And I was angry for months. And when my friends would call me and I would interact with people, I was honest about it. I'm angry right now. If you can't handle being around me, that's okay, but that's where I'm at right now. And I did a lot of not talking to people. And thank goodness I had wonderful people to help me who were willing to just listen without being judgmental and to encourage me to just express myself. I wrote, I meditated, but I didn't resist what was going on. I finally got to a space where I could stop judging myself. So, as a highly sensitive person, how does you to be able to handle the anger of others? Well, once you really get a handle on and understand your anger, you will be able to understand it from someone else. Therefore, the alignment inside of you, your perspective towards their anger changes. Once that perspective changes, it no longer feels as horribly. Will there still be times where you have to excuse yourself because maybe you're in a position where, it's still hurtful? Yeah, you will. And at those times, that's great too, because those are triggers for you, and it puts you in a space to be able to do your work and really, really work on even more without judging that person and without judging and blaming yourself, without beating up on yourself, or trying to beat up on them. And miraculously, people will be able to come to you and be angry. And you will be able to hold their hand in that anger. You will be able to give them permission, allow them to give themselves permission, and work through it. The anger, the emotion, yeah, it needs to be actually released. But it needs to be released as if it were a bad thing. It's just pain. It's just we there are all sorts of releases that we do. It's we release when we're having wonderful feelings of elation and joy, or what we identify as elation and joy and love. Oh my gosh, we can feel love in ways that are so deep that they actually hurt. They hurt in a way that we've been taught to prefer, but they do. Yes, I was going to get back to what is anger. Well, I hope you've been listening enough to figure out that it is basically your power trying to come through. And it is frustration. It's frustration because perhaps you don't have the tools. You're trying to get the tools. If it's coming through and it's coming up, though, the tools are there for you to get. Okay? And this is part of the reason why working with someone, whether it's a coach or a good therapist or whomever, is crucial. Okay? And you have to be serious about it. If you're not, then it's not going to work. We all have to actually be serious enough to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to book those appointments. I'm going to show up. I'm going to pay my therapist. I'm going to pay my coach to be able to help myself. That's you helping yourself. And you want a person who realizes that, who's empowered enough in themselves to be respected, okay, as well as there to empower you. Because the thing is that if you don't put a lot of effort towards something, we're not going to get back what it is that you want. Nobody else can do this for you. I have people all the time that come to me who want me to do it for them. I can't. I'm only a guide. I can know I'm highly intuitive. I'm a highly sensitive person. I can know what's going on. I can give people tools. I do it all the time. But they have to use them. And if they're not willing to use them, if they're not willing to trust themselves enough to trust me in what I'm saying to them, in what I'm showing them, because ultimately I'm always working on showing people who they are and letting them look at themselves and giving them tools to allow themselves, guide themselves to where they want to go and to be able to do the actual work. Nobody can do that for us. And anger as an emotion can get in the way of that, because sometimes we feel like, well, I need this person to do this for me. I need for this person to do that for me. Oh, no, I'm not good enough because, well, I guess they don't love me enough to do this for me. Or there's nobody, or God, or the angels, or my guides, or whoever, okay, doesn't love me enough. I'm not suited for this. I don't deserve to be empowered. I don't deserve love. I don't, in essence, deserve to love myself. I posted a thing about this, saying that anger can be very, very empowering to a lot of groups on Facebook, online, and most people very much agree with it. Most people understood that, there have been a plethora of people on this planet who have shown us how to utilize what they're calling anger, but this power, really, this power that sustains us to move forward in order to really change things in a way that we would want. Luther King, for instance, is a very, very good example of that. When you listen to this man's speeches and you hear that power in his voice, that power comes from a space of, having been oppressed, having gotten angry at times. I see this often in the African American community, where anger is more readily allowed to be expressed. And in doing so, I see people who are altogether much more feeling, much more cohesive as a community than some of the other communities that don't allow it, some of the other ethnic groups, I suppose you could call it. So to allow others to have that space, even as a highly sensitive person, because as a highly sensitive person, the more perspective that we have, the more power that we have, the more we don't feel the need to protect, the more we don't feel beat up upon, the more we're actually able to be there for others, because ultimately, isn't that what being sensitive is really about? To become that empowered. We sense so much. We feel so much. We smell better than most people. Our sense of smell, is better than most people's. Oftentimes, even our sight is. The things that we feel upon our skin, we have this way of being able to express so much. So we've got to express anger. We've got to express our power, and to enable us to get there, to get to a space of real vulnerability. Because when we can be that vulnerable, it allows other people around us to be that vulnerable. And, oh, my gosh, we get to experience so much more love. And people expressing anger can very much be a space of love. Because when somebody comes to me and they feel comfortable enough to say, I'm so hurt, I'm so angry about this, Ken, it makes me happy. It makes me happy that they feel comfortable enough with me to be vulnerable enough with me to express something they feel frustrated and angry about. And I don't judge them. And I don't blame them. And I show them, what's possibly really going on, or what is possibly really going on rather than what's, going on in their head and what they've been taught. I take them into spaces of, going beyond seeing things in black and white, going beyond seeing things as negative and positive, going beyond the blame and, the seeking to make things be about other people, just way beyond that, into a space of really, really, really deeply healing and really being able to be free and empowered and loved. And that's what I want for all of you. That's why I decided to talk about anger today. So, again, don't be afraid of your anger. Embrace it. Flow through you. When your mind starts chattering, just say, hey, you know what? Great, there you are. I hear you. But, this isn't what this is really about. And I understand that. And I don't have to listen to my subconscious little child telling me that this is about this person because they were bad, or this is because this person made me feel that way, or because, oh, look, that person's doing this at work, or this person's, my mother is beating up on me, or, on and on it goes, or my spouse is, picking their nose the wrong way. Yeah. And sometimes it does get that trivial, believe it or not. And we don't even realize at times that we're doing things like that because we're so busy trying to not look at how we are emoting, at how we actually really feel. And we're so busy trying to avoid the pain. And we're so busy, judging ourselves because I'm angry. I'm angry, so I must be a bad person. I'm angry, I'm not supposed to be angry. Well, the goal is I'm not supposed to experience anger. Oh, so I must be doing something wrong. No, you're not. You're being human. And that's okay. The only time that it gets to a point where it's pretty much not okay is when it's stuffed inside. It's stuffed inside for so long that we're so busy blaming, people blaming, all of society, getting into these conspiracy theory things, being angry about all of that, everything outside of themselves where they can't sit and be logical about anything and, just sort of be with it, be able to see, the bigger picture and what's really going on, or people who, and this is really just as bad, people who call themselves, oh, I'm so, spiritually evolved and a loving person, and yet the first thing that comes out of their mouth, the minute that somebody says, I feel angry, is, oh, yeah, well, you need to do something about that. Yeah, okay, that's negative. Oh, bad. So, yeah, that's not going to make that person feel loved. So how is that, somehow more spiritually evolved? It's not in any way, shape, or form. And so really, aren't they doing the same thing as the person who's, blaming somebody because of the color of their skin, or blaming somebody just because they're different, that they live life a little bit different than they do, that they enjoy different things than they do, so they must be at the root of what has messed all of society up? No, it is the same thing. It's all just blame. And our brains, whatever we've been convinced of, like to think of it as something different. But ultimately, as a highly sensitive person, you know inside of yourself that the energies, what they really feel like. If you really sit with it for just a second, you realize, oh gosh, that's really the same sort of energy as this other thing over here. Sometimes one can be more intense than the other, but ultimately, blame is blame. And there's no blame that's like worse than other blame. There's no anger that's worse than other anger. There's no, it's just things that are in the way, really. Because even that is really not a negative. It's something that's, coming as a challenge. Everything in life is a challenge. Anger can be a challenge, or anger can be something that we can utilize. Everything is here for us to utilize, to include anger. Having the tools and knowing how to utilize it, not, getting to a space, if we're not looking at it, we'll get to that space where we might go postal. Okay. Where we say a lot of things that we really, really don't mean in ways that are more hurtful. And even when I have people who have yelled at me, screamed at me recently. I, had somebody yelling at me for apparently nothing online, and yeah, I just sort of looked at that and said, well, apparently this person is angry and frustrated, and I just said to them, it's okay to feel that way. And they were able to have a talk with me. They were able to say, well, this is why I really feel this way, and this is what's really going on in my life. Because I allow for it. I allow people to be angry. I allow them to be who they are. And I can do that as a highly sensitive person because I am empowered, because I understand my own alignment, and I work with them every single day, every single moment, all of the time. And I help other people to work with and through theirs as well. I am all about helping other people get to a space of being at least as empowered as I am. Some have become even more empowered than I am, which is wonderful, wonderful. So if you would like to have somebody who can very much help you, who has spent 10 years formally studying behavioral science of all sorts, from all backgrounds, who actually has been through it themselves and comes out the other side, then please do send me an email to theliberatedsensitive@gmail.com for your free 15-minute coaching consultation. Until 2 weeks from today, have a wonderful, wonderful life.